In today's world, we are increasingly dependent on technology. Our business and personal lives rely on it, but as you've probably noticed, it's unreliable. Our computers are slow, so we end up squinting at smartphones and tablets. The jokers we pay to fix our stuff have no clue what they're doing. We live in constant fear that something's going to happen to our personal data. So we're scared into paying for fake protection that proves useless when disaster strikes. Update attacks, fake Wi-Fi, cloud control, intelligent, successful people feel intimidated by the chaos and think it's somehow their fault. If they only knew what the industry was doing to them, they'd get torches and pitchforks. If only we had someone to explain it all in plain English so we can start protecting ourselves. Oh wait, we do! It's the Computer Exorcist Podcast with your host, Mark Anthony Arena.
From the Wallace Memorial microphone in my home office, overlooking the Can of Worms in downtown Rochester, New York, and it's currently 0 degrees Fahrenheit, this is the Computer Exorcist Podcast. My name is Mark Anthony Arena. I'm so glad you've joined me today. I'm also glad that I'm getting out of here today. I'm headed back to Boston for the weekend to do some more speeches. Okay, let's get into some articles here, because I know that's why you're here. Cyberscoop.com 2021. Facebook stops NYU researchers from examining misinformation. Is criticized for silencing transparency efforts. Facebook shut down the accounts of researchers at NYU who were studying misinformation, saying the team of experts had violated the company's policies on automated collection of user data. Facebook is silencing us because our work often calls attention to problems on its platform. Worst of all, Facebook is using user privacy, a core belief that we've always put first in our work, as a pretext of doing this. That's ironic. Facebook has first sent the project a cease and desist, but did not take action until August. Researchers have used the Ad Observer plugin to view limited and anonymous ads shown to Facebook users that volunteer for the project. Okay, so this is the only time there's a browser add-on where people actually volunteered for it. They should be applauded. All other add-ons on this planet, it's funny how Facebook doesn't have a problem with those. Those are done where they sneak into your machine. There's giant green download buttons on websites that make you think you're downloading whatever you're looking for, and instead they attack with an add-on that legally spies on you. Okay, they're called toolbars. They are legalized spyware. I've talked about them a lot. Side note, I want to thank the Osher Institute at RIT for having me speak there about a week ago. Had an awesome time. It was the biggest crowd I've had yet. So if you know any kind of organizations that want something new and want to learn some enlightening stuff, let me know and I will come speak there. And I gave them all my basic stuff, the 4 new threats, and it worked out well because they're all intelligent, successful people. This is a continuing ed school for seniors, and they were all intelligent, successful people. They're all doctors and so on. And so I really hit home that point that the computer industry looks down on you and calls you stupid when the reality is definitely not the case. So that was a lot of fun. So they say, we took action against NYU researchers to stop unauthorized scraping and protect people's privacy in line with our privacy program under the FTC order. That's interesting because they used to sell people's direct messages to Bing. So they obviously don't care about privacy. It's just that, well, maybe we'll only violate people's privacy for the right price. How about that? Because ads are designed to be shown to the public and the information comes from willing users, right? Again, these people are volunteers for the first time ever. The pair's lawyer says Facebook's basis for removing their account is bogus, and I tend to agree. We do not collect any private user information, said the Knight Foundation. That's hilarious, the Knight Foundation. I'm thinking of Michael Knight and the Foundation for Law and Government. The Knight Foundation. So, look, the other thing... then they say that Warren and Klobuchar sponsored a bill that would require social media companies to make a public file of election ads. Here's the deal with ads. A lot of ads, many ads online, especially with emails, they use fake fonts. Like if you get a Viagra spam, you'll notice the wording is a little off and you can't really put your finger on it. It's because they use a fake font where it looks like an A, but it's not. Or they'll use a parentheses instead of the letter C, and that sort of thing. Or they'll use a lot of spaces, because, as I've said many times before recently, computers are evil and can't actually read any of that. Computers can read the word if it's typed as a word, right? If you type HELP or something, then it knows it's the word help. But if you type open parentheses and then a 3 and then an @ symbol and then some other totally different font where it looks like the letter to a human but it doesn't register that as a computer, then yeah, humans can read it and computers can't filter out these crazy ads. So that's how those ads get away with it, and they're impervious to any kind of detection. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens in 2025 with big tech. You see Facebook up there kowtowing to the new administration. I don't buy it. I don't know. I am hopeful that Facebook is turning a new leaf and deciding not to crush its users, but perhaps it's just them flapping in the wind and going with the times. We'll see what happens as time goes on. And that article is thanks to my buddy James, by the way, in Albany, and he sent in a couple more, so we're going to do those today. I interviewed him a while back on the bonus show, and fascinating guy. I'm actually trying to get him into lecturing himself, because he has a lot of knowledge about things like dealing with health insurance and talking about AI, so we'll have him on the show again, but I want to actually help him launch his speaking career, because I think he's got a lot to say. And he and I would be the only ones, pretty much, as well as Jamari, who was our recent guest. We are some of the few people actually decrying this AI bandwagon, okay? Warning people of, hey, guess what? There's some dangers. Okay, cyberscoop.com. Hackers are using CAPTCHA techniques to scam email users, right? And those things are so obviously not user-friendly, but they're also totally unhelpful. They're obviously totally useless. They can't protect... I mean, they're a really desperate stopgap measure, but they really don't protect websites against foreign hacker robots. Right, the whole idea is you have to prove you're human by reading some squiggly lines. Actually, as I talked about a few minutes ago, right? Reading some squiggly lines that a computer can't read. But computers now have OCR technology, and that's what I'm guessing the bad guys use. Notice how the technology isn't used to filter out Viagra spam, but it is used if a bad guy wants to break into some website. So it's funny how tech is being used only for bad means. So here goes. More email users fell for scams using CAPTCHA technology in 2020, a new report says. The technique, which uses a visual puzzle to help authenticate human behavior, received 50 times as many clicks in 2020 compared to the prior year. That's still a 5% overall response rate, whatever that means. Comparatively, 1 in 5 users clicked attachment-based emails with malware disguised as PowerPoints or spreadsheets, okay? Hackers are increasingly turning to email to distribute initial malware that's used to later download ransomware. Proofpoint detected 48 million emails containing malware that was used to launch ransomware, okay? So, and again, ransomware, hot knife through butter, scrambles all your documents, and then begs for ransom money. So they're using an email, which then gets you to open something, again, a Microsoft Windows product, and then you're only vulnerable if you're using a Microsoft product. Then it breaks in the machine, and then that malware unleashes other malware that brings in the ransomware. Concerns over ransomware have skyrocketed in 2021 after a series of high-profile attacks. And the U.S. dealt with major ransomware attacks against the IT firm CAPTCHA, and that's hysterical because, as I always say, this ransomware stuff is easily prevented. Okay? And I'm actually writing a mini tech tip right now for my next book and I did some research on it, because I always say 99% of everything. So I did some research, and it was like 76 or 78% of companies end up paying the ransomware fee. That's insane. That means 78% of companies have IT jokers who they pay really well who cannot protect them. All right, that's one thing if this was a difficult problem, right? And they all say, oh, the world is changing so fast. It's difficult to catch up, to keep up with these people. And we have to work night and day and play whack-a-mole and put out fires. No, that's evil and pointless and stupid and wrong. Okay, if your IT guy protects you, all he does is do a backup and then disconnect it. Okay, I say that in the first course that I do, in the basic talks I do to basic users. I say, look, if you care about your stuff, you do a backup on an external hard drive, you disconnect it, and you put it in a fire safe. Voila! Okay, ransomware can't get you because it's physically disconnected. All right, so all of this fear, right? Oh, the world is changing and bad guys are getting us. All you have to do is stop for 1 second and think with your clear, rational, true mind and say, okay, we're going to use some real logic here, which nobody in the computer industry has. We're going to do a proper backup. We're going to disconnect it. And then I tell all these beginners in my course, I say, here you go. You now know more than 78% of IT guys. It's crazy. So that's insane if an IT firm gets hit with a ransomware. I mean, they're all going to get hit with it if they're infected with Microsoft products, but that's insane if they end up having to fall for it and pay the ransom. It's because they don't know how to protect against it, okay? So you are going to get the ransomware if you're on a Windows machine. That's inevitable, but do your backup. Accenture Security detected a 125% increase in the first half of 21, which is a booming ransomware industry. Of course it's booming, right? Of course it's booming, because it's hot knife through butter, taking candy from a baby, and shooting fish in a barrel all at the same time. And that's what I'm writing in my tech tip. It's so easy because almost everyone's infected with Microsoft technology, so you walk right in, first of all. And second of all, most IT guys don't know how to prevent this, don't know how to prepare for it. Right? It's like if you live in Florida, of course you're going to get hurricanes, but what if you had a scumbag IT guy who didn't bother buying flashlights and rechargeable batteries and bottled water? Okay, how's that for a good analogy? I could use that in the tech tip. That's pretty good. I just came up with that. On the fly analogies with the computer exorcist. Okay. So it's very pathetic that I'm one of the few guys in the industry who knows how to do this. So if you have a large organization, feel free to pay me lots and lots and lots of money, and I will protect you, unlike your current computer guys. All right? Okay. Last article from my buddy James. GovTech.com. Georgia School District to try cameras in classrooms. July of 2021. And I know, folks, I told you I was going to just read articles, read the headlines, and then summarize the articles, but this sheet of paper right in my hands here is just covered in highlighter and handwritten notes and exclamation marks and underlines, and oh boy. I went to town with this one. There are a lot of ways to use them, Dalton Public Schools Director of Tech and Telecom informed the Board of Education. Teachers can teach a lesson in one room of a school, and then another room or even another school, allowing them to double up on instruction. So further worsening education. These cameras are designed specifically for schools. Cha-ching. Okay, so it's a normal camera with the price tripled, right? It's like the QVC model. According to Cloud 12, right? So Cloud 12, and of course it's clouds spelled with a K. So you've got your requisite misspelled name, as all cloud bros, cloud companies with sports bros running it. And it's an ultra-proprietary system, I can almost guarantee you, right? So they tripled the price, and they set it up so it's a lockdown system that only works under their control and only works when they allow it to, and all in the name of security. And by the way, next week it's called out of support, again, all in the name of security, you'll have to throw away your camera and buy another one because of their extreme lack of being able to protect you. Okay. Teachers watch themselves to improve. Okay, you can micro-criticize yourself, and those poor teachers are going to be obsessed. And look, as someone who's getting into, I'm starting to make tech tip videos, you just want to get your stuff out there, right? No one notices the flaws that you notice in yourself. Just get it out there. So everything about this is wrong, even that. There's also a security function if something happens in a classroom. So in other words, in case all of this tech drives someone wild and makes them go postal, okay, that's the real reason, right? In the 70s and 80s, people weren't on rampages, okay? It's because of all this technology, in my professional opinion, that people are all so inflamed and anxious and having heart attacks all over the place. Dalton Public Schools has also upgraded its antivirus protection. Ooh. Yeah, in case their computers go back to 2013. Okay, so someone made a huge chunk of change out of that and got a nice retirement. They upgraded their virus protection with a new platform. It's called Carbon Black. And surprisingly, Carbon Black is actually spelled right. There's no like carbon with a K or BLAK or whatever. If Dalton Public Schools is victimized by a ransomware attack, Carbon Black's EDR will hunt the virus down in our network and stop it. Okay, that's hilarious because it sounds real good, but it's not a virus. It's not a virus. I wrote a book about this. I'm writing another book about this. It's not a virus. It's ransomware. It's a completely different nature. It's a threat of a completely different nature. These ding-dongs dressed up in suits and they went to a school board that didn't know any better and said, we're going to hunt down the virus. Yeah, we're going to hunt down the virus. That's not it. It's not a virus at all. Ransomware is utterly different. And again, there is no way to stop it. It's inevitable. As I said a minute ago, all you have to do is do a real proper backup. Nowhere in this article do these scumbags mention that they're doing a real proper backup. So this poor school system just spent millions and billions, and they aren't going to be protected during a ransomware. I bet you anything, if you look up Dalton Public Schools, at some point in the future, they'll get hit with a ransomware and they will have to pay the fines because they are using pre-2013 technology that is completely unable to detect ransomware. Okay? And again, it's like if your doctor says, I'm really well versed in bubonic plague, so if you get COVID, I'll use my bubonic plague techniques on you. No, it doesn't work that way. It's a whole new threat. Okay? So that's it for those. This one here, this is, I was shredding papers at my year-end routine of shredding papers, and it's very fun and gratifying. And I found this article from USA Today, August 21st, 2015. And it says, tech workers are richer, but less happy than most. Okay, and in my opinion, it's because they put extreme pressure on you, and then you have to keep changing the product all the time, when in reality, again, when I was in this industry a few years ago, I was so upset because I thought that everything changed, but I was doing my show and I had a guest on one day named Pastor Ken, and he said, Mark, there's nothing new under the sun. And that really helped me a lot because I realized, okay, just like those guys who are, you have to put out fires and play whack-a-mole. No, just stop and realize the reality of it, and just know it's the same thing with different names, right? It's the same 5 or 6 threats with different names, and then you don't have to waste all your energy chasing and playing whack-a-mole. So, yeah. And it says, the beginning of the article is cool. It says, to be employed in the tech sector. Your skills are highly sought after, the entry-level pay skirts 6 figures, and your job often involves creating the future. What's not to like? Well, a lot, according to this survey. And they go on about Amazon's aggressive workplace environment, and very few of them can recite their company's mission and values. Few of them have high-quality relationship with the other workers. Opportunities for growth aren't clear, and or the requirements for growth are inconsistent. Okay, so I thought that was cool. It highlights my point here that none of these people are happy, right? And usually I shake my fist at the sky and think about criticizing and hate these guys in the IT world, but they're not happy either, okay? They're just paid by some mimbo, as it were, some guy who thinks he's going to make it big in tech. I'm just going to hire some programmers and then make some big thing, and then I'll be able to make money on it forever, right? And collect the rents, as it were. So it's really not the programmer's fault, okay? It's programmer's fault for using programming languages that are so shoddy and House of Cards, but it's the tech executive's fault for making them implement these harebrained products. There's another article underneath here that I just noticed. It says HP disappoints, and the CEO says Q3 is as good as can be expected. Hilarious. Leave it to HP to always, consistently, always disappoint. All right. The next one here is another one I found whilst shredding papers, and this really brings home my point about what I call the false promise of technology, okay? This is all a long time in the making, all right? This whole tech field didn't just come out of nowhere, right? I mean, we past several, probably 300 or 400 years, there have been little breakthroughs in science, and that's cool and everything, but people end up worshiping the science. And they think it's going to solve all your problems when all of this science, as I just said, is created by scatterbrains and slobs and sports bros and mimbos and people just trying to milk other people. Okay? So this article says The World's First Love by Fulton Sheen. And if you remember him, he was a bishop of Rochester for a while and was from Illinois and from Peoria there, and just an incredible speaker and writer. So I'll read you a little bit of what he's saying here. The Immaculate Conception wilted and killed the false optimism of the inevitable and necessary progress of man without God. Humbled in his Darwinian, Marxian, Millian pride, modern man saw his doctrine of progress evaporate. The interval between the Napoleonic and Franco-Prussian Wars was 55 years. The interval between Franco-Prussian War and World War I was 43 years. The interval between World War I and II was only 22 years. 55, 43, 21. And then after World War II, you had a Korean War only 5 years after. That's hardly progress. Okay, I'm going to say that again. That's hardly progress. Okay, that little sentence right there really stuck out at me when I read this, okay? Again, it's you keep going on the gravy train, you keep worshiping what's next, technology's going to be saving us, technology's going to be our savior, and then, oh, wait a minute, look at the reality, okay? Just like when you go into the big box store and, oh yeah, all technology is better, new is good, and just throw that away and get another one. But inevitably, the newer technology is worse in every way than your prior product, okay? I was at a lady's house yesterday, and she had a laptop. It was great, but it was old, and it was physically deteriorating, and so on. So she ordered another one, and I showed up. And she said it was Lenovo, and I said, great, I like that brand, cool, we don't have to make any changes, you can get that one. So I get there, and she's got a laptop with a whole different processor that some joker sold her because, well, newer is better. So, and yeah, it's a better processor. We've talked about ARM processors before. They're heat efficient and energy efficient and so on. But leave it to Microsoft to not bother implementing this new technology correctly, so none of her stuff worked, all right? I mean, I could see if you're an individual user, you might not notice the new processor, but this scumbag didn't understand that she was running a business and didn't understand she had a $60,000 printer, and she wasn't about to go buy another printer, right? That's their whole goal, is you get a new computer, and then the new computer requires newer accessories, and then the newer accessories require a new computer, and then the newer computer requires new software, and the new software requires a new computer, which requires new accessories. So it's that evil treadmill. So luckily, she just put her foot down and said, I'm not spending $60,000 on a new printer. My printer is totally fine. I'm not going on this treadmill. So we returned the newer laptop and said, give us one with an older processor. Point is, the reality here, all right, technology was getting better for a while. In the 80s and 90s, cars were getting better and so on. And we went from cassette to CD and all that. But the technology is if you blindly worship it, that's when you can fall off a cliff. Just like a lot of PC companies blindly worship Apple, and they fall off a cliff whenever Apple comes out with something stupid, because these companies don't realize that Apple's no longer trustworthy when it comes to design or anything else. All right, so he says, that's hardly progress, okay? Man finally saw that he was not naturally good. Once having boasted that he came from the beast, he now found himself to be acting as a beast, okay? Then came the reaction. The optimistic man who boasted of his immaculate conception now became the pessimistic man who could see within himself nothing but a bundle of libidinous, dark, cavernous drives. Right? That postmodern, post-war European artist, they're all dark because they just think that, well, man is dark, so therefore we should all be pessimists and there's no hope, right? Again, they're just, if you're lost, that's what you would think. As in the definition of Immaculate Conception, the Church has to remind the world that perfection is not biologically inevitable, right? Like the Ubermensch and all those pie-in-the-sky things, and as well as the singularity and the AI stuff, right? That's all just regurgitated Ubermensch, by the way, folks. Keep that in mind. Church has to remind people that, so now in the definition of the Assumption, it has to give hope to the creature of despair. Modern despair is the effect of a disappointed hedonism. Okay, that's another one. Disappointed hedonism. Well, we were told that the object of life was just to seek out pleasure. No! Okay? Disappointed hedonism. And centers principally around sex and death. Okay? Those two ideas which preoccupy the modern mind, the Assumption is indirectly related. All right, this article was from 1952. All right, so very prescient. And if you look on Netflix or Amazon Prime right now, 99% of shows are about sex and death, either one or both. Okay, isn't that funny? Because again, if you have no God and technology is your God, then you have no God, and that's all that's left for you. God created this world out of nothingness, and Jean-Paul Sartre creates nothingness out of the world and the despairing human heart, and he says man is a useless passion. So the idea here, and I'm writing another book coming up about anxiety, and in that book I say, look, we have our subconscious, which is our human urges, and then we have a conscious mind, which is our God-given soul, our thing that we can use to make decisions that are better, to hold off on our urges, right? And really to ask our gut, all right, what are you really trying to tell me, right? If you say, I'm so hungry I can eat a horse, it doesn't mean you need to eat a whole horse. It just means you're hungry, and it just means you should seek out some good food. Yeah, so that's interesting. Disappointed hedonism. Modern despair is the effect of disappointed hedonism. Bet you didn't expect that on a Wednesday morning podcast, huh? About technology. Well, that's why we're different here at Computer Exorcist Podcast. I'm Mark Anthony Arena. So glad you joined me today. If you have friends who want to leave the cubicle world of pushing products on people and they want to fight the good fight here alongside me, then you can tell them to go to becomeanexorcist.com. And as always, thanks for telling your friends about the show. We'll talk to you next week. And stay tuned, by the way. If you go to my website and go to the page about the book, you can get a preview edition of my next book, which is called How to Protect Yourself from Silicon Valley. I'll probably sell the preview edition for like $5-10, something like that. But it is available on my website right now, and that's thecomputerexorcist.com. So you can get a free preview of my next book about Silicon Valley and so much more.